All right, welcome back, guys. We've got somebody unexpected. I already lost my belief and faith that we ever gonna do this podcast, and I appreciate Johan that you came and agreed to speak with me because I think it's very important in the future. I'm also doing this YouTube thing, so in 10 years maybe I can rewatch it and listen to some cool stories. And I think because in many eyes and in many people opinion, you are the greatest player of all time in Quake 4 definitely, and very very top player in all other Quakes. I think that will be a shame to not use this chance and speak with you. So thank you for that in the beginning.
Yeah, hello and thank you for having me on.
Yeah,
I'm sorry that I haven't been able to do it sooner, but as you know, I'm usually not looking forward too much to doing like interviews for
I know.
different reasons.
I know many people don't like it, and I can understand why. And it's like, I appreciate your time. So I'm just gonna jump straight away to the
Mhm.
topic. First of all, we in Eastern Europe, like me, Cypher, young guys who started, we are following basically few guys in the beginning. So for sure, some Russian like champions like Cooler, Lexer, etc. But then we also followed you a lot. And I don't know, I know a lot about your person in the gaming, but I'm not sure if ever anyone asked in the past how did you came up with your nickname, because back in the days in late 90s or early 2000s people usually picked the names based on some English words. For example, Cooler, like Cypher is also an English word, or like goat, whatever, like fox even, it's like an English word. How did you came up with Toxic?
To be honest, I'm not really like having a perfect way of like describing it, but I
Mm-hmm.
guess like in the beginning, I think I was using my real name,
Mm-hmm.
and being younger, like I think I created a nick like when I was maybe 11, maybe
Okay.
12.
Mm-hmm.
So back then you wanted to have something that like sounded quite cool, I guess.
Yeah.
Um, we played around with like trying have a like a Swedish name, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
but it made more sense to make it an English name, because you realize quite fast that it was gonna be like quite much international gameplay.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
but yeah,
Okay, and now another one which is also bothering a lot of people. You came up with really, really odd settings, like shooting style, etc., like with your keyboard. And also back in the days, a lot of people used the inverse mouse, so like looking
mhm.
up and down. Like Russians also did that a lot, but you had it to the different degree. How did you came up with like, because when I was starting, I remember when I installed like Quake 3, I already had like default setups, or when I was going to internet clubs, there I was playing after somebody, so always somebody used like WSAD or like arrows. In the beginning I remember I used arrows for walking, and
Yeah.
shooting with mouse one. How did you came up with a little bit different settings?
So basically, it came from when I started playing, we were only playing with keyboards.
Mm-hmm.
As you mentioned, like you walk with the arrows and turn with
Yeah.
the left and right. And I believe in Quake 1, in the beginning, like the default settings were that you were shooting with Alt,
Okay.
and I think you were strafing with Shift, I think, and
Mm-hmm.
then you were looking up and down with A and D, if I remember correctly.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Um, so basically, like, so I was used to like using the keyboard. Then like
Mm-hmm.
we realized like that you were able or allowed to use a mouse.
Mm-hmm.
This we figure out when we went to the first event that we went to.
Okay.
It was like the Quake 1 championship in Sweden,
Mm-hmm.
and I believe I was 10,
Mm-hmm.
and we were only playing with keyboards, and we recognized like everyone else were using mouse and keyboard.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, so it didn't go so well for me. I think
Yeah.
I got uh, top 100 or something, maybe. Like, I
Okay.
think it was quite a lot of players. Like, I think it was 250 players.
Hmm.
My brother did better. I think he was top 32 with keyboard only.
Okay, so he also
So,
played with keyboard only, Gopher.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
In
Okay.
the beginning, like for at least like a
Hmm.
year or so.
Hmm.
But this was when we realized like that you can use a mouse.
Yeah.
So I figure since I already like are shooting and strafing with the keyboard,
Hmm.
it was making sense if I use the mouse. I can use the mouse instead of using the arrows,
Hmm.
like back and forth, like
Hmm.
forward and backward. Um, so also like we used to rent. There was a guy in my class that had like a public place that you could rent,
Okay.
like in an association, pretty much.
Hmm.
So we used to rent this place like every weekend to go and bring our PCs and LAN, like to
Okay.
play against each
That's
other,
cool.
since
Yeah.
we didn't have internet back then.
Hmm.
Or like it was in the early stages, so it was impossible like to play team modes and whatever. You could
Yeah.
play dual with 300 ping if you wanted, but so yeah, basically like and we usually everyone want to have the lights off and like we played all the nights and whatever.
Yeah.
So back then I wasn't really that known of like to find my keys on the keyboard. Like I
Hmm.
couldn't type that well, or like if you didn't know like the layout of the keyboard back then. So
Okay.
a simple thing for me was like playing in the dark, like when I couldn't actually look down at my keyboard and see like where I should put my finger
Hmm.
to find like weapons and whatever. So I only like did a very simple thing. I like tried to find the left corner of my keyboard.
Hmm.
So I put my little finger on control,
Hmm.
and then I just put the fingers down. So it became like C, X, and C that I'm shooting with.
Hmm.
And then I jump on space. So without knowing where the keys were, I could find like the bottom left of the keyboard
Okay.
to be able to find like my setup basically.
Yeah.
Otherwise, like you had to look at the keyboard to try find like, oh, where do I duck or shoot or
Hmm.
whatever.
And I think the old keyboards didn't even light up or anything, so it was even harder. I think at
Yeah.
least one of my first keyboards didn't have any lights. Oh man, that's so interesting because I think I never heard this story. I don't know if you even told anyone about it or somebody asked, but that's super interesting. I thought maybe, I don't know, I thought maybe Gopher just started to play a little bit like few days earlier than you and he made up some weird settings and then you followed or whatever the reason was.
Mhm.
But this is interesting and also reminds me of this like Dota 2 song and all the people sitting in the room and having a LAN. And I also remember even in later 90s, like when I started, instead of like going to internet clubs where you had to pay the money and it was quite expensive when you were like 8, 9 or 10 years old because your parents had to give you money. So we also
Yeah.
like, I remember we were also throwing the like internet LAN cables through from one building to another, and we were kind of like going few streets like this so we could like play like on LAN with one guy or something. So it's crazy
Yeah. Yeah.
times. Yeah. But okay, what else? Okay, so also that's why you are so good with aiming. If you were competing in the beginning only with keyboard, then adding a mouse and out of a sudden it's like so much easier.
Yeah. It was making it a lot easier, I guess. Even though like
Yeah.
back then, like since everyone was using like ball mices.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it was still like such an advantage to be able to look up and down and not have to like use the keyboard to look up and down. Otherwise, you could play with that setting that are
Yeah.
like locking the crosshair in the center.
Yeah. I remember also first time when I learned that when you have a ball mouse, you have to clean the ball sometimes. And then,
Yeah,
like after a few weeks, it was so dirty that you couldn't already move on the mouse. And we also used those like little mouse pads. I don't know if you remember, like those like cartoon, like they had
yeah.
some cartoon like on like drawing on it or something. Like it was very weird, very small. You
Yeah.
probably remember that. But yeah,
So
yeah.
so with the invert mouse as well, like that. how I use the invert mouse. That basically comes from like it made sense. Like we were playing, Nintendo and maybe other computer games like on the PC. First of all, like we only had one PC, so it was like this was also like I think a reason why my brother started playing a bit earlier than me, and it was hard like fighting over one PC, and it's well like it was used for other like for my dad and everything. So yeah, it made sense to like I guess our like thought was like if you fly an airplane or something, it made sense like that. This is how you use like
go down and you look up. True. Okay, because my memory is like starting from Quake 3 times only. So like 2001, I think that was the first tournaments you guys started to compete with. And also I realized that in the beginning in Quake 3, I think you competed much more in 1v1 than TDM. And that was the time when you guys were creating, I don't know who created the Ice Climbers in the beginning, which was like very famous back in the days. And you were also like, the big rivals, like some Russian clans like Force, I think, Rush 3D also, Eyeballers. There was like, that was like kind of international or Scandinavian clan, I think, because they had this guy Anakin, which was Albanian or something. And then they had like 3 Swedish guys or something like Desp, etc. I remember that watching like Clan Base, Euro Cup, all those like tournaments. I think that was the beginning. QPO was like Scandinavian clan as well, right? With Prozac, I think.
Yeah.
So you guys started playing a little bit more TDM in the beginning and competing, and only then you kind of like in 2002-3 you kind of switched to 1v1, right?
Yeah, pretty much. Like in the beginning, like when we played Quake 1, that was mainly we tried to play either 2-2 or 4-against-4. There was some duel, but not that much. So like when Quake 3 were released, back then like it was difficult like playing online. So in the beginning when it was me, Goofer, Phantom and Panicor like in the Ice Climber, since we kind of created Ice Climber during like Quake 1, like the end of Quake 1.
Okay.
I guess we were like a bit late to the scene, like when we kind of had the opportunity to play online against all those like known clans in Quake 1. Quake 3 was already like coming out very soon after that.
Okay.
So like we had made like really big progress, and like we had beaten most of the good teams before Quake 3 came out. So when Quake 3 came out, I remember we brought all the computers to Phantom's place, and we like played in his basement. But we only played like against bots back then, because that was the only thing that you had. So we played 4-against-4 against the bots.
Yeah.
And then we were lucky because Panicor, his dad, was owning like a network company, you could say.
Yeah.
Or like a fiber company. So we were fortunate to play at his office during the weekends. So we brought our PCs usually on Friday. And since they were almost like one of the first places where had fiber, because they were the ones like in charge of putting it down in the soil in the town. So it was only that place and the university here that had fiber, and a lot of the players back then were people going like to university or college.
Okay.
So we were able to play actually with like, below 10 ping online back then.
That's crazy, yeah.
But most of the time we played against other people, having similar ping, because that was basically the only people that were being able to do so.
And you guys were living in the same town or like very close to each other, or?
Yeah, everyone lived in the same town.
Yeah, so also like Panicor and
Phantom.
And Phantom, yeah. Okay. That's cool. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Panicore was like I don't think he was in the same class as my brother, but he was in the like
Oh,
next door class.
okay.
But they had like a friend in common, so that was like how we got to know him.
Okay.
And Phantom was like a just a random thing. Like there was a guy at my dad's firm,
Mm-hmm.
a partner that he were partner with. Like
Okay.
one guy started working there that were like younger, or like he might have been like 20 back then,
Mm-hmm.
and he were playing Quake, and
Okay.
he was like knowing about me and Gopher that we
Mm-hmm.
were like good players. So he
Yeah.
told like his friend that uh, the guy at the work, his friend's little brother was Phantom. So
Okay.
for some reason he got like invited to us, like that he wanted to come and
Nice.
play with us. So
Nice.
so it was like random.
Because Gopher is like older than you, right?
Yeah, he's 2 years
2 years
older.
older. Yeah, yeah.
Phantom was 3 years older.
Yeah, I remember also back in the days, the first internet I got, like it was so bad. Like I had like 130, 150 ping to everywhere. And also it was like kind of phone internet. So you had like
Hmm.
impulses and like I only could use it for like 40 minutes a day or something because then I was like, going overboard with the limit and stuff. But yeah, that's crazy. Also, one more question because back in the days, like until like 2007 or 8, I remember also going to LANs and competing already in 2007 or something. And we were speaking with Polish CS guys who were also like world champions and very good. And they were competing with other like Swedish teams, right? Like Ninja in Pyjamas and other clans. Like there was like a lot, SK, some in Fnatic, etc. And we are always wondering because we are sitting one night and talking and we were like, okay, so we got a lot of like world champions from Russia in Quake, right? But not in CS. And then we got some from US, which is like huge, like, country and continent. But then we got so many good Swedish players. You were dominating Quake. Then we had like not even one team, but like you could make at least 2 or 3 teams like from Sweden who could like compete for the first place. And we were like thinking like, what's the reason behind that? Because Sweden is not like the huge country or continent like Russia or US or something. And we were
Yeah.
thinking that first of all, you always seem to have really good internet, like much faster than anyone else. Like I think the first one I remember was BBB or something like that. And then also like we're thinking maybe the weather is like not the greatest and you guys, willing to spend a bit more time, or like your culture is like more into gaming because you already had DreamHack, you had this like Dota song, like everybody in Sweden was hooked up. I remember first time I came to Sweden to Jönköping for DreamHack in 2008 or something, and I seen all those kids with PCs, like this big culture of like LANing and making like
Yeah.
parties. What do you think? There is any reason for that Swedish players were always like really 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 good?
I think so. Like that we were fortunate to have like internet before made it more simple to like be able to practice like outside of bringing your PC to a LAN event.
Mm-hmm.
So it was more like that you could play more often and more casual, like
Mm-hmm.
earlier on with like a pretty good set, like at least like playing with that high of a ping in those like old games, it was very different playing online compared playing to LAN
Mm-hmm.
condition. So it
Okay.
was even like hard to learn, if you had only played with like 150 ping and then you come to an event, like it's really two different games, I feel like.
Yeah.
And Gopher, he's like known for he made like a mini Quake, like
Mm-hmm.
Quake 1, basically.
Okay.
That were like I'm not really sure like how he did it, but he made it. He removed a lot of stuff in
Okay.
the in the game,
Okay.
so you could fit it on like a desk. And he took that desk like and he installed that on all the PCs in school.
Crazy.
So
Okay.
everyone like at every school in our town do have like that like mini Quake, so people
Mm-hmm.
were playing like during school time.
Yeah, crazy.
And this way, like you got people to know about it, and like all of a sudden, like everyone wanted to
play
buy a
Quake.
PC and come play LAN and whatever.
Yeah, crazy, crazy. Okay, so now we got like the 1v1 era in Quake 3. So 2003, 2005. That's the years when I'm starting to see you like competing and going to the like top places. So you had a lot of LANs like QLAN, I remember QuakeCons, like DreamHacks, obviously. ESWC started like in 2004 and 3 as well. 3 was actually the one with like nations, but I think you competed in 4 and you finished like 5th, 6th. Also, that's the time when you start your like your biggest rival back in the days is like Cooler, and that's also how we know you. Like me, Cypher, other young guys from Eastern Europe, we were watching a lot of Cooler, and then like you played a lot of games with Cooler on internet. Like there was like some trash talking a little bit like between you two, and I remember the game, like you were like competing with him on internet, like you were beating him a lot. And then he started to say like, those famous quotes, your LG is nothing on the LAN, etc. And I remember one tournament, and it was ESWC 2005. And you were playing for Fnatic, and he was playing for Rush 3D. And that's the game we all know. That was DM6, and that was on LAN, and you played him. And you basically was demolishing him. Like, it ended up like something 24-9, but you were leading like 20-2, like until the 10 minute. And then you quote something which people don't know. They only know mostly about the Cooler quotes. But you said, now you know me at LAN anyway, which was cool. And I remember this game exactly because I watched it hundreds of times. Because, at 2005, I was just beginning Quake 3. And I was like learning, and I was rewatching demos. So I don't know how many times I watched this DM6, but I probably know it much better than you yourself know it. But I watched it over 100 times for sure, and you were hitting so much rail, NLG, and like in general, everything was like on point. And I think at that tournament, ESWC 2005, that DM6 was your best map. I think Cooler won that event anyway, like in the end, but you demolished him on that. Did you ever playing Cooler both on LAN and online in Quake 3? Did you ever had like any opinion like how you think you should play him, or like any strategy to going into him? Because you knew in the beginning that he's extremely good with timing and control. That was the main core of his game back in the days. And you were hitting a lot, and you knew that it's irritating him. Did you even on purpose try to like use more rail than you should or something? Like, did you have any kind of strategies against him?
Okay, so like this is like the story, like when we played quite a bit, like before you said, like we started, or I started playing more dual, like 2003, 4, and 5. We played quite often against them, both like Koda and Shiba, or Jibo, or
Jibo,
yeah. We played a lot of 2 and 2, and usually like we were able, to beat them quite easily, because they were not as familiar, I guess, with team modes. But I always like struggle a lot in dual, and like Cooler was like the main guy that were on the top back then. And I think like a lot of like the trash talk, and like when sometimes we were arguing and whatnot, I think a little bit is maybe that, like as you are when you are younger, that you're maybe a bit too frustrated.
That was funny though. That was funny, and it's like epic, so. And it was nothing really wrong. It was like you were always like, good manners.
Yeah. So like obviously Cooler, he were, I would say, better than me in dual in Quake 3. Like if you talk just overall, like he won way more than I did. But I think like I recognize, like as you said, like Cooler, he played very like item based, and this was also like something that, in my opinion, like Cooler have lost quite many tournaments due to being too stubborn in the way of his gameplay, I guess. But he since he do a simple routine of he knows that if he's just outstacking the opponent, it would be a better way of playing in the long run.
Yeah.
It only turns really bad if something unexpected happened. But if you play consistent like that, you will be able to reach a higher placement most of the time. So but this was also a bit funny. In the early talking about Russian players, they were playing very almost only with rocket launcher, basically.
Yeah.
It was they didn't use rail and lightning gun that much. Especially they didn't even use any other weapon like the shotgun or plasma gun or grenades and whatnot. So everyone were playing the same kind of style, but I think when I recognize in 2005, that game that you are talking about, the reason why it changed for me 2005 was that I was kind of analyzing. I was watching demos, games from him, and basically especially if we talk about DM6, he was doing the same thing just over and over and over. So I wasn't focusing too much on timing. I didn't really the issue was that for me it was not simple to remember to look when I pick up an item, because I haven't really had to do it before playing.
Yeah, you didn't have habit.
The absolute top 5 you had to do it, but the other players you could play without really timing on the second. So basically what I did, I was kind of copying the same route as he did. So, and it's he always played he runs a certain pattern on the map. And it takes 5 seconds to do this route, and then this item spawn, and then the next, and basically he just run this in a circle, but it can vary a bit depending on since Mega and heavy or red armor was different times in Quake 3, 25 and 35. So I basically kind of copying his route. I figure if I do just the same thing as he does, without doing what I wanted to do myself, so basically let's see, on heavy armor on DM6, what he used to do is that he take the red armor, he rocket jump up the bridge. He take the yellow, then he take the mega, and then it's switches, but he did the same route over and over and over. And I figure if I just use the same pattern, even if I wanted to go another route, I wouldn't do it. I figure that I could, since I could probably win most of the fights if we were equal stack, or especially if I had more stack than him. I figure that if I can just get the lockdown and running that circle, that he cannot really do anything. But if I had to try to do something else, it might have lead him to get an opening, I guess.
Okay. Yeah.
But so cooler, I think even if we were frustrated at times, I think we always respected each other as good players. But I think sometimes just emotion were a bit high.
Yeah, I think because you guys practice together, I think you both gain a lot from it. Because your styles were so much different that you both were learning 2 different things constantly. You, I think, learned a lot about the control, and he also learned a lot about combat skills, definitely some kind of dodging and avoiding damage, and then trying to deal chip damage, etc. So I think that's because you guys back in the days, it wasn't so popular to practice with other nations. Probably Russians played with Russians and Swedish players with Swedish, but I think that made you guys both great champions, because you kind of were so different and played together quite a lot.
Yeah, and I think, as you said, obviously he really disliked to get railed. So I was overdoing it with purpose against Cooler.
Yeah.
Because like as you said, like he could play a perfect game for back then we played 15 minutes if I
Minutes.
recall right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So like he could play perfect for 13 and he was said like that this is like some of the issues that he have had in some of the games. He's leading with 2 frags only because he doesn't go out and chase for frags. He just keep the control.
Yeah.
But this is very scary. Like if you are only up with 2 frags, if you do something bad or you lose control, like it was very often that he ended up losing the game, even though he had almost played a perfect game.
Yeah.
So like he was so comfortable with like having the full stack. So in my opinion, he took always so much unnecessary damage.
Yeah.
But like playing that way, you are doing well 90% of the time. But if someone is hitting too much or like you take unnecessary damage, you end up losing even though you have been playing like perfect.
Exactly.
So I didn't really like I think Cooler has changed that a little bit like later on in Quake 4 and Quake Live and probably Quake Champions as well. But he was it was too simple to read him. It's not like that he was thinking different, but he was just using these routes on the map.
Yeah.
So it made it very easy to like do a lot of damage.
Yeah, he definitely understood it later on, and he tried to change the patterns, and that's very important what you said, that the playstyle is really good long term, but then sometimes some games happen when somebody is out shooting you, then it's problematic. And I remember that because Rapha has like similar style to him. I mean, the idea of like controlling the map is similar, and I remember even in some QPL finals, I was usually always losing to Rapha, but then we played some quarterfinal on QPL finals, and I had a day where I was hitting everything. I don't know, like completely everything. LG, rail, I was hitting everything. And the game seemed so easy for me because, he kept running for the control and I was already there and hitting everything and much more than him. And it ended up in like very fast, like I think 2-0 or something. But that was one game out of like X we played. But that's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, as you said, like I think, like talking about Rapha, if you compare Rapha and Cooler, like they play quite similar. And I think in the beginning, like Rapha, when he came up in Quake Live, he played very like item based, but he was struggling for many years, like with aim.
Yeah.
So I think like that was like the main. After he got enough aim, like it was really hard to break that pattern.
Yeah.
But also, as you said, like he kind of changed a little bit, like. But I don't feel like it was already kind of invented, because I feel both you and Cypher did it, but maybe especially Cypher. Like he played very controlled in a way in the beginning, but I always like have joked about that even though he's Belarus, but he was the first Russian that were able to use railgun.
To hit, yeah, I remember that. I remember that on Lance. You told something like this, that he's the first Russian who's hitting rails. Yeah,
I was like watching those like old games with Lexer and Unkind and Cooler and Pulisati and those guys. It was really fun to watch because they could fight for like 30 seconds and rail, but no one were hitting. There was so much action. But they were really like solid with like rocket and like timing and all those like other things. But it wasn't used as a weapon because it's very unreliable if you don't hit. But it's about using it when you can use it and.
Later on they got better.
Yeah, definitely.
Also, like the subject about aiming, I'm always talking about it with some people, and like people want to know your opinion. But for me, it's also aiming is like you cannot really ask someone like, you know, how to be good at aiming, because it feels for me that 90% of your aim is like kind of what you, I don't know, created in the first like couple of months of playing, or like maybe it's genetic or like whatever, like setting based. I don't know, I have no clue. But I don't think there is anyone who can explain it. Do you have any opinion why, for example, your aim is so much better than, for example, I don't know, my aim, like from the beginning? Or like, because nowadays, like, you know, kids are playing Kovacs and they training and routines. But if you ask me personally, I'm also old school. I don't think if I used any Kovacs routine, I would be any better or much better than I am now. I feel like, you know, I got my like base aim. Sometimes it's a little bit better, sometimes it's a little bit worse. It depends on the day, but I got my base, and I'm most likely never gonna like improve it like very significantly. I think.
I think this is like an interesting topic, but I think it has to be compared as well game to game,
Yeah.
like because it has changed over the years. I think like talking quickly about you and your aim. I think this was like in Quake 4 when you started to come up, like you came out, in my opinion, from like kind of nowhere.
Yeah.
Like I remember that you were playing. There was a tournament in France, I believe, and like you reach like higher and higher really quick, like in the placings.
Yeah.
But I think it was due to that you were actually so like good with aiming compared to a lot of the other players. Especially you were good with all the weapons, and you played like super aggressive, which were like your thing in Quake 4, I think.
Yeah.
Which I think was like the reason why you did so well, because it's difficult playing super heavy or like super fast all the time. And especially in Quake 4, you were able to push like faster after respawning.
And hit a lot. Yeah.
And most people can aim pretty well when they know what's gonna happen. They have been doing this and practice it forever, but there is only a few players that are really good, like to play when it's like full speed, I guess.
Yeah.
Let me think. Like
Yeah, but I know that
yes.
the topic is hard. It's like really hard to tell like whether like the aim is like genetic or you can train it. Like, I don't think you can
No.
really train it too much.
So for my reason, like what I liked about the game in the beginning, like what made it interesting for me to play at all, was like it was very competitive.
Yeah.
Something that you can compete and like you can get judged by if you win or lose, basically. But for me, like I always put like high, like that was the fun thing for me, like to try hit better and better.
Yeah.
I didn't pay attention to the items like in the early days of gaming, because like it felt like you can never be done with it. Like you can never be like, okay, I'm as good as I can get. Like it
Yeah.
was always something that you can improve.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes to different games, like I feel like it's different in Quake 3. Like if we talk about like the lightning gun, for example, like there was a delay on it, like it
Yeah.
wasn't insta hit.
Yeah.
As well
Yeah.
as like the knockback in Quake 3 and Quake 4 was a lot higher compared to Quake Live and Quake Champions.
Mm-hmm.
So it was important like to kind of strafe aim in Quake 4 and Quake
Yeah.
3.
Yeah.
So like, but I think it's a little bit of for one, like what you kind of enjoy doing.
And
Most
you
people are
focus.
just
Yeah, and you focus. This is a great point what you said. But yeah, continue.
yeah. Most people are just focusing on one weapon, and the biggest mistake most people have done over the years is that they create a config just to be able to hit rail or shaft or rocket, or
Yeah.
they neglect like all the weapons. Like you should never like adjust a config so you can only do one thing. For me personally, like I have always struggled like with the rocket launcher. Like I have been improving over the years compared like to early Quake 3. I was really terrible at it, but I had to focus on it a lot in during Quake 4 and even in Quake Live. It was a huge thing to be able to
Yeah.
defend yourself with rocket. Sometimes like I wish I would had been better with it, like, but it has always been difficult because I feel either people are good with rocket and rail or rail and shaft. It's rare that they are good with all three.
Yeah.
And it's even more uncommon that people are good with like machine gun, shotgun, and plasma and
Plasma.
everything.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So, like, it's I think it's what you pay attention to really, and like.
It makes sense. It makes sense what you're saying because I now thinking about myself, for example, and I remember first thing we focused in Quake was like timing items, and we completely didn't care about aiming. Like later on, because maybe me and Cypher are more like we are somewhere in between. We are not the youngest, but we are also not the oldest. So we kind of watch both you and Cooler. So we from the beginning knew that we cannot only focus only on like items. We also had to try at least to hit something, you know. So maybe that's why we kind of, you know, developed the style where we could do the both from the beginning, and maybe that also allowed me to become really good really fast because I kind of, you know, focus on both things like which were necessary to win events. So that makes
Yeah.
sense, and you focused on aiming because you enjoyed it. And yeah, sometimes when I struggle something with the game, I try to focus only on that one thing. I forget about the timings. I forget about the aiming. I just focus on one certain thing just to like, you know, improve it. So yeah, that's a good
I
point
think,
there.
yeah, I think for me as well, like it was a big help, like starting to play team modes in the beginning for me, because especially how like when we played with Ice Climbers, in the beginning it was both like I would say both Gopher and Panicore was kind of, you know, they wanted to take everything. Like you had to fight to get like an item because everyone was like a vacuum cleaner. You know,
Yeah, yeah,
there was team play, but it wasn't, you know, team play in a way of like controlled team played.
yeah.
So
And and
I
you
got
also
like
sorry to interrupt.
yeah,
And
yeah.
you remember also guys used like binds to like, you know, for like take an item free. Like man, how many keys you had to use? I remember I used it myself. Like I don't know how I did it, but like I had so many binds like quad soon, etc.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, crazy. But yeah, go on.
I think like for me like my role as a player was that I was since no one were giving me stuff and I was not supposed to be like the guy that were standing and holding an area. Like it made clear quite fast for us that what I did best was like to just be out on the map and try to like um, do as much damage as I could and like try to just be annoying to the opponent team. So I learned quite like since I had to use like a lot of machine gun, shotgun, and plasma because no one were, you know, giving you something for free. So the only way to get good weapons were to take like a less of a good weapon and kill someone to take his weapon, and then
Yeah,
you
yeah.
work from there. So especially then, like as well in team modes, you have to turn all the time. Like you fight two people and three people, and like you cannot really know what's gonna be happening.
Yeah.
So I think like if you take, we had an advantage of playing so much team modes. If we talk about just aim practicing
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
all the weapons compared to if you play a duel and you sit in an area for 8 minutes. Because back
Y-
then in the early days, people were playing, you know, those slow games, like no one were jumping around, and it was almost like Counter Strike in the way of like that you don't want to move, you just hold like a angle or position.
Yeah.
So playing, if you only were playing duel back then, like I would get the same amount of practice, in 1 year compared to if that guy would
Yeah,
have been playing 10 years of dual.
yeah,
So I think like that was also like a big part that we were lucky to play so much team modes in the beginning.
yeah. Exactly. So much more action in team mode. That's why I also like to warm up in team mode. So like just whenever I practice for 1v1 tournament, I also like to play some 2v2 or like, TDM or something because
Yeah.
it's always good. Yeah. Okay. So let's finish with Quake 3 for now and move to like your, crown game, which is Quake 4. Many people remember you from being like extremely dominant, which is true, but I don't think a lot of people remember that the first 1 or 2 events you actually lost to Cooler in the beginning, and then you kind of
Hmm.
started your domination for all the like all those years of like Quake 4. Because first event was international. It was CPL 2005, I think, winter, somewhere in the US, where you played the final with Cooler, and one before that or one after was DreamHack summer, I think, where you also played Cooler in the finals. And after those 2 tournaments, you kind of boomed and you started to win absolutely everything. So from becoming top Quake 3 player, the best, one of the best like team modes players definitely, and then one of the best like 1v1 players, you became like second best in the beginning after first event or 2, and then you became like unbeatable. How did you, do you think there was any change, like did you change anything after this like CPL tournament where you lost to Cooler and you came back to home and you said, okay, I'm second best now, I almost did it, but I need to change this and that, and then, or it came naturally that you just became the best afterwards? You remember that
I think,
event even?
yeah, yeah. I think like after like Quake 3, that ESWC and then, like already being like in the top 5 at least.
Yeah,
Um, Starting with Quake 4, like in the beginning it was difficult because like the game was so high requirement, so it was
mm-hmm.
hard getting good FPS and whatnot. But I think it took a few events before like we figure out really
What to
how to
do?
play.
Yeah,
And I think Cooler had like an advantage in the beginning because he were obviously playing very more item based,
yeah,
which is a good way of playing, like if you want to be solid. And I think like getting second place, in my opinion, it was like I was disappointed of losing,
mm-hmm.
but it was also um,
Sign of
I was
potential for future, I think.
yeah, and I think then I had also like finished high school and I had been working for a year for my dad.
Mm-hmm.
Um, So like this was like when Quake 4 came out, I told my dad like that I kind of feel like that
That's the game. Yeah.
I wanna try to play like professional,
Mm-hmm.
cause but it sounded like there would be a lot of like tournaments and probably like quite a bit of prize monies and all
Yeah.
those
Yeah.
things. So we had a discussion about it, and he said, that he thought that I should do it because it's better like to play than to work really. Like if you are doing well and you can do something
Yeah.
with it.
Yeah.
So I think for me it changed a bit, like that I could spend more time. Like even though I might not have been playing more time, like more games or practice more even if I wasn't working, but it was like
You had time to recover and do other stuff. You were doing a lot of gym back in the
yeah,
day,
it
so
it
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 helps.
was easier mentally to like this is what I should do
Yeah.
and prepare and like not feel like that you have to play between 7 and 9 each night, or like it was more like you could play whenever you wanted to.
Yeah.
Um, But also, I think they changed Quake 4 a little bit, like from the early, like they made some changes as well. Like I think um,
There's this Quake
they,
4 Max patch or like 2.1.2 patch, something like this. I remember that too.
yeah, I think it made it like a little bit faster, and also like I feel like in the beginning it was like so hard playing with like low. Like I'm usually have been very performing well when the setup are good. Like if I have like low ping and good FPS, and I feel in the beginning I was struggling a little bit, like maybe with aim wise, that I couldn't really like just out aim
Yeah,
to
like
win.
you used to, yeah.
So I had to like, but as I said earlier, like taking a bit of cooler approach, like to do certain rounds. I think that's what I did, like started to do more in Quake 4, that I had different like patterns.
I think so too, yeah.
And this way, like I could get the items like even without kind of knowing the second. Sometimes you did, but it was more important to not like forget about it completely. But I think also like something that people are not talking about in Quake 3 and Quake 4 is that it really changed the game, like when there is a weapon respawn time.
Yeah,
I think it was
definitely.
15 seconds.
It was, yeah. Quake 3 and Quake
Yeah.
4, yeah.
So I think for me, like that was how I had built my gameplay. Because
Yeah.
like in Quake Live and Quake Champions, like it's so much more important to actually time and get like a bigger stack than the opponent. Because you're like everyone will have all the weapons no matter
Yeah.
what you do anyway.
Yeah.
But it was something that were really helpful for me, that I was always focusing on the weapons, you could say, both in Quake 3 and Quake 4, like deny the person the best weapon of his choice. So against Cooler and Cypher, for example, like I usually try to, deny them rocket launcher. If we talk about Quake 3 and Quake 4, not so much railgun, but player like in Quake 4, like you, Sturmy, and like those players, you try to deny them, rail and
Rail, yeah.
lightning gun. So like in a sense, like if I only took the weapons all the time, so the guy that had like the full stack, he was not having anything to fight with.
Yeah.
And the only way for him to get a weapon would be to give me mega and heavy, or like they have to give away it if they want to get the weapons.
Yeah. Yeah.
This way it was like a bad trade-off for them, because if we were equal in stack, like I would win in most situations. So it forced the player to like break their routine, and they had to improvise because they realized, that they don't really have any weapons.
Yeah.
And they were no threat as well without the weapons, even though they were fully stacked,
Yeah.
because you can always just run away or like avoid it. So I think that was like something that I adapted to in Quake 4 better.
Yeah, that's interesting, because I always, whenever I played you or watch you play Quake 4, I thought that you are extremely good at timing. And you now explained like you probably tried to, the game was faster and you tried to like be there and not necessarily time it to the second, but taking the routes and changing your routes and like, improving at that. But like, from third perspective, it always looked like you are on the item on the right time. And you not necessarily need to like know it like to the second, because like what, you're not gonna jump it to the last second. You're probably gonna have a fight before it or like after, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
The most important is to know the rotation and then to know more or less that it's spawning soon and you have to fight for it or concede it or whatever. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you learn like it you might be able to go 2 times around the map before the next item come. And then you have to just adjust a little bit depending on what happens on the map.
Yeah, I also remember Quake 4, like, so in Quake 4 you were completely GOAT, and we with Cypher, we completely forgot about Cooler, and we were watching only you. And then I remember we were standing on some LAN, I think it was on Quake on 2006 or something. And I was like watching you, and then I'm like talking with Cypher, and I'm like, dude, look, before every game, like, or every day of the tournament, you were like, unpacking your backpack, and then you had like, you had a guarana drink or like gum. I remember, I think you had guarana drink, you had some snus, you had like some gums to chew, then you had like spray for the window so you could like, clean your monitor, and then mouse pad. And then, everything was perfect. And I'm like, I'm sitting there with my old, like, still serious mousepad, which is dirty as heck. And like my monitor is dirty and stuff. And I'm like, man, maybe that's the key. Maybe I need to clean everything before I go. So we started to clean monitors and stuff. But you always cleaned your monitor, I remember, and you're like ice mat, right? That was your routine, always.
Yeah, because it's especially with the mousepad, like playing on a glass pad, like it's really important that there isn't like dirt underneath because it changes the skates and everything. But even the monitor sometimes can be like it makes a difference if it's a clear image. If you don't, and someone else might have been using it before, so there might be a lot of
bacteria and stuff.
Bacteria and stuff. I think,
Nice.
like with Quake 4, like it was a little bit different because, like as I said, with the knockback, I feel like this is also something that changed over the years when you talk about aiming. Like that you were mentioning that Kovac game. I feel the same way as you do. Like I'm not certain that it would help that much, but it might be helping nowadays, to be honest, because most of the games now are so like direct. Like in Quake Champions and Quake Live, I feel like it was important to just have the crosshair on the target at all times. It didn't really matter what you did with your keyboard, or you strafe or you dodge, or it's about how many seconds can you have the crosshair, and you get like an average of this much damage you did. So this is why like I wasn't using those programs in Quake 4 especially, or I'm not sure like when they came out, but I felt like it didn't translate because I was always like, strafe aiming and different angles and whatnot. I feel in new games now it's more important to like move the mouse. And if you were aiming like with the whole mouse on the mouse pad and didn't care about that you had to like do it in a certain motion, like you wouldn't hit anything if you were only aiming with the mouse. But I don't know if that's like game related or if or like what's up with that. But I feel like it's hard like to translate it into games. But in Quake Champions, for example, I feel like it really translates because it's all about, it's like a calculation of how much you have the crosshair on the target, and the computer will just tell like this was this much of a hit, I guess.
Also I feel like Quake Champions is like, it feels like everybody is hitting a lot. So it's like also kind of, the people who are really good at aiming, I think they are in disadvantage because it seems like in Quake Champions you the aim is, I don't know, it feels like it's first of all not as important, and second of all it feels like people who cannot really aim in other games, they still aiming really good. That's a weird thing.
Yeah, I think so too, and especially like you can notice in early Quake Champions when it was a little bit more difficult hitting, like obviously in the beginning where there was a lot of bugs and whatnot with hitboxes, but there was at least like patches where they had fixed like the issue with the hitboxes, but it was still like quite difficult to hit. Which I kind of prefer. Like even in Quake 4 it was quite difficult to hit, and I think we also forget about that we were playing with those bad monitors with like a lot of delay, like it made it harder. But I feel like if we talk about Quake in general, I think like the game should be like that. If you have a really, really good game, you might be able to hit like a 50% railgun. But no one should have like above 35 on lightning gun, and like when everyone have like 60%, like it's like way too easy to hit, and it removes like the fun of it, because it also destroys how the game is supposed to be played. If everyone is hitting everything,
Then it's too boring. Yeah.
yeah, you just have to like stand at your position, and especially like it's all about when they combine that with like the respawn time is 5 seconds, so everyone get weapons. They can just you can just re-rush or.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
think also what we not many players are talking about is like how the spawn system work in Quake Champions. In my opinion, wasn't good. I think in Quake 4, even though there was some way of like telling where the player would spawn, but I think the biggest issue was that in Quake 3 and Quake 4, and I think in Quake Live too, if I remember correctly, that you can respawn like fast.
Yeah.
Like I don't like when you have to lay dead for 5 seconds as in Quake Champions before you can respawn.
Yeah.
Especially with set spawns, because each game is the same. Then there is no like thinking. It's just a pattern of practicing. So
Yeah.
everyone knows everything, and like if you die at this position, you have to lay dead for a few seconds, and the
And
other
then
guy
it's,
he
yeah.
can jump across the whole map, and then
Yeah.
you spawn, and then like he can just deny you the item. I
Yeah.
feel in Quake 3 and Quake 4 it could be like if you play aggressive or like however you wanted to play your game, there could be a situation that you hadn't planned to take a fight here, but the opponent wanted to fight.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden this guy spawns and he gets the mega for free and he gets the railgun, and like then all of a sudden it changed like on a split second. So then you have to like think more about, oh, now this is like the new
New way. Yeah. Yeah.
new way.
Yeah.
So like Quake Champion is so like it's just like a matter of practice and knowing, being up to date with each patch, like if they change the spawns or it's about when to kill your opponent, in my
Yeah.
opinion, and where you want to fight or
Yeah.
kill the opponent.
I completely agree, especially with the aiming and like the accuracies. I remember in Quake 4, like everybody, like good players like me, Cooler, and Cypher, we used to have like 24, 26, 28% LG or something around 30ish. And then you had like something like 36, 37, 38. So yeah, that's that's the maximum you could get was around the 40 if you were hitting like you. And in Quake Champions, sometimes you can hit 60 or 70. Which is,
But usually like
crazy.
in those like top top 3 games, everyone had like low accuracy,
Yeah.
because like for one it's harder to hit someone that is like better, and
Yeah.
as well like there is a lot of spamming going on.
Yeah.
So but I think just in general I think it became too easy to hit in general. Like it removes a lot of how the weapons are supposed to be. And I think like even like talking about Quake 3, I think that's what I miss is like the intent of like plasma gun, that plasma was so much better than lightning gun if you were kind of close combat. I feel in especially in Quake Champions, like it's kind of useless to use nail gun and plasma gun.
Yeah.
In the beginning when it was like super difficult to hit, like due to a lot of hitboxes that were having issues and all those, like the nail gun was really good because it made 20 damage and you could just spam, and if you did 60 damage in the round based duel, that was like huge.
Yeah.
So I kind of missed that, and in Quake 4 I feel like it was more for spamming, but it could be effective. I think we started using it more later on in Quake 4. Especially you were using it quite heavily, I feel like.
Yeah.
Because it was like really good if you were able to hit with it. And the thing is like it was at least consistent, so you could practice it.
Yeah.
This is not the way in Quake Champions, like that with plasma and nail gun or what you want to call it.
Yeah.
Quake Champions. Like it's random. Like you cannot usually turn to crap if you use it.
Yeah. Honestly, like it felt like in Quake Champions that most of the time you want to use LG anyway because it will give you like certain amount of damage, and like when you try to use rocket, sometimes you end up kind of not hitting, or the rocket hit but it didn't register, and then the guy already made
Yeah.
150 damage on you. But yeah, anyway, coming back to also like a little bit Quake 4, before I'm gonna speak about the final with Fatality with you, which was also very famous back in the days. But you also had certain way of practicing Quake 4. I don't know if you followed it up in Quake Live or like in Quake Champions later on, but I also had the same approach. I really like to play against medium skill players, not necessarily against like pro players all the time. And how was your approach to that? And second of all, I think you were the player who didn't really like to bootcamp a lot, right?
Yeah.
So, and also another question, because you were at some point you were joining like Fatality like organization. You were kind of playing under his like brand because you had like this like black like sweater like from Fatality and stuff. And he was very famous for like bootcamps. And because you were like the best Quake 4 player in the world, did he ever really try to push you to go for a bootcamp with him to kind of get better or something like this, or he never really tried to push you for boot camps?